So you're thinking about making a move to Boynton Beach, Florida, and you're thinking to yourself, why wouldn't I move there? It seems like everyone's moving to Florida these days. I mean, what could possibly be the disadvantages? Well, today I prepared a list of 10 things that might trigger you or rub you the wrong way that you might want to consider before making a move here to Boynton Beach, Florida. So if you want to know those 10 things that might bother you, stay tuned. Really quick, if this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living in South Florida and the surrounding areas like Boynton Beach, then make sure you subscribe below and tap the bell for notifications so that way you can be the first to learn about the current market here in South Florida. My name is Ryan and I work on a family real estate team with my mom, Susan Schultz, and we get calls and texts from people just like you every single day who are looking to make their move to South Florida. So whether you're moving in the next 10 days or 100 days, feel free to give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email, and we'd be happy to have your back and help you to make a smooth move to South Florida. All right, so I put together a list of 10 things that I think are just a nuisance of living in Boynton Beach, or it could be deal breakers altogether from the 28 years I've lived here. And yes, I know, 28 years, I look like I'm 20, I get that all the time. So these are gonna be the 10 things, and you definitely wanna stay till the end because the last one I'm gonna share could definitely be a deal breaker for you. So let's get into it. All right, so number one, we have cost of living. And I just wanna say that Florida is not the same as it used to be at least 3 to 4 years ago when you could really get a lot of bang for your buck. Just in South Florida alone in the last year, prices have risen 10% in areas like transportation, rent, and housing, and as well as food and groceries. At the time of this recording, the average rent per month is around $1,700 to $2,200. So the days of renting a 2-bedroom apartment for $1,000 have been long gone. The median home values in Boynton Beach currently are around $406,000, which is a little bit less than the national average at $428,000, but this is still quite expensive for Boynton Beach. So before COVID, we were seeing that a typical 3 to 4 bedroom home was going for around $300,000. And now we're seeing that that same home is going for around $500,000. And typically right now we're seeing that the homes that were really priced really low, in recent years are now costing at a starting price for a single family home is around $400,000. So that's just really the price that it's going to cost in order to live in paradise here in Boynton Beach, Florida. And something else to take note of is that these prices are not only affecting out-of-state buyers, but also new home buyers here that are local Floridians that live here as well. So one of the ways that you can save money on groceries is when you move here, rather than shopping at a place that might be more luxury or convenient like Publix or Whole Foods, we recommend that you try to shop at places like Walmart or Aldi's. And definitely get a Costco or BJ's membership because that can really help bring the cost of food down, especially when you buy in bulk. Some other tips that you can definitely start is if you have the habit of eating out, you might want to cut back on that. Obviously, unless you have the budget for that, just by buying your groceries and then learning how to make food at home. And the other thing we would recommend is another great option for Costco and BJ's is that they offer a lot cheaper gas. So you can typically get gas that's 20 cents cheaper on the gallon. And if that's not an option for you, you can also look into getting Gas Buddy. That's an app that you can download on your phone for free. And the reason this app is great is because you can use this app to figure out what the cheapest gas stations are around you so you can really be smart about where you're spending your money for your gas. For number two, we have the heat and humidity. Now, it's no surprise that when you live in a tropical climate like Florida, you're going to have that really warm weather. But I just do want to warn you that, typically we're seeing that in the summer, the temperatures can be in 85 to up to 95 degrees. So you definitely want to respect the heat here. And the humidity, honestly, I guess I'm just used to it, but a lot of our clients are telling us, that, it's just on another level here. And so what I would recommend in order to combat this is to make sure that your AC is working in your car and in your house. You definitely don't want to be on I-95 and bumper to bumper traffic late afternoon, 4 p.m. and you're rolling your windows down just trying to catch a breeze in order to cool off. Trust me, I've done that. You do not want to have your AC not working in your car. Now, I will say in terms of the heat, the thing that we are fortunate enough here in Boynton Beach is that we do have the sea breeze since we are so close to the coast, and that does help to cool down the area a little bit. But for the most part, it is going to be a very, very warm climate. So if heat is something that you are not a fan of, then this may not be a good area for you to move to. So for number three on the list, I have avoid living in Boynton Beach because we don't really have the 4 seasons here. So typically here, we're going to have 3 seasons. You're going to have a very hot summer, then you're gonna have a mild winter and you're gonna have the dry season in the spring. Now that means that you're gonna be obviously skipping out on shoveling snow, but you know, the fun activities that you would have in obviously the winter areas is gonna be like snow skiing, snowboarding, which is something that, you know, I actually do enjoy. As a family, we've gone out to Colorado and skied in Keystone and Denver and all those places. But this is a big pro for most people to move to Florida, is that they don't have to worry about shoveling snow or, you know, just being in these freezing cold temperatures all the time and going through seasonal depression. But I do want to just say that you're not going to have the beautiful fall of the trees changing colors, at least in South Florida. You're going to have that more in like the Panhandle area. But that's just something that you should not even expect to see when you live here in South Florida. So for number 4 on the list, I have the summer and seasonal thunderstorms that we have here. So the thunderstorms in Florida are just a different breed in terms of the fact that they come very quickly. They can be very strong. You can have gusts up to 35 miles per hour. There's going to be a lot of lightning, and sometimes there can be tornadoes. Sometimes there can be hail even at times. Now, typically with the rain, it's going to rain really, really hard. So you have to remember that we are in a tropical environment. The thing is that after the thunderstorms, that's when the humidity tends to be the most. So it is kind of a con because it will affect your summer days. But typically when they come in, they're only here for about 2 hours max, and then they're gone. Typically in the summer, you're going to see a lot of the rain occurring around 3 p.m. Like, I don't know what it is, but typically around 3 p.m. you'll see that in one side of the sky, it's going to be absolutely blue skies, and on the other side, it's going to be like a dark cloud, or, you know, like a dark wall, I should say. So that's kind of what it is like for the thunderstorms here in Boynton Beach. So for number 5, I have the hurricane risk. Now, something that you should keep in mind when you're moving to Florida is that the hurricane season here is, number 1, it is a season. And number 2, I think one of the good things about it is that at least you have a warning. You have like 5 days or a week or so to know that a storm is coming. Now, I've lived here for 28 years, and I can say that we have not evacuated one time. Most of the storms I've been through have been like category 1s to category 3. Now, obviously, if a category 4 or category 5 storm came, then we would probably evacuate. So that's what I'm just trying to say is, like, this is a risk. We do live in, you know, that hurricane alley there, but, you know, something to know is that when a hurricane is coming, number 1, you definitely want to make sure you have plenty of water, batteries, your flashlight, and make sure you get a generator. Now, when it comes to getting a generator, I recommend that you buy one when it's not the hurricane season. Otherwise, people are going to price gouge you and take advantage of the opportunity to really hike up the prices, and they know that you're going to pay for it because they know that you really want that generator. Now, you know, typically with the hurricanes, if there is a lot of damage, typically it's recovered pretty quickly here. The state governor will send in a lot of people for FP&L to get the power and the electricity back on. So, you know, obviously there is a risk, but at the same time, you know, we tend to get pretty lucky with hurricane season. We haven't had any category 5s or category 4s in quite some time. But obviously, if this is a risk that you're not willing to take, then you might not want to consider moving to Boynton Beach. For number 6, we have the wildlife here in Boynton Beach. So you have to remember that this used to be the Everglades. So you're still going to see your gators, you're going to see snakes, there's going to be some coyotes, some bobcats, and in the ocean you're going to find sharks, jellyfish, and man-o-wars. Now I have a couple of stories for all of these. So for the man-o-wars, these are these like blue jellyfish that kind of float on the top of the ocean. They're really hard to miss. They kind of look like a balloon floating on the ocean surface. Now, something to warn you about is that when you're walking on the beach, they can still sting you. So you definitely don't want to step on them thinking, oh, it's dead, it's not going to bother me. We had plenty of incidents when I used to work at the hotel of people stepping on these things and then having to put, you know, rubbing alcohol or whatever on their leg in order to get rid of that wound. With jellyfish, you can typically see them when you're swimming in the ocean, especially when you're snorkeling. Just, you know, make sure that you're not always looking down, but look up every once in a while just so you can see what's around you. And then typically they're really easy to just swim away from. Now, in terms of sharks, you'll see that we do have a season where there's spinner sharks that will migrate. I don't know if it's north or south. I'm not sure what direction it is, but the point is that when you're on the beach, you're gonna see at times it's gonna look like dolphins jumping out of the water spinning. But really what it is, it's spinner sharks. And I don't believe they're harmless. or I don't believe they are harmful. The ones that are something that, you know, you might want to look out for is going to be bull sharks. So typically you're going to see these near the ocean piers where people are fishing. So there's a lot of bait and blood in the water, and that's attracting these sharks into the shallow coastal areas. So that is one thing to watch out for. In terms of the land animals, we do see coyotes. Now, in my neighborhood, we have a neighborhood Facebook chat. So a lot of people with their Ring doorbells and their cameras on their homes, you know, will typically warn those in the community like, hey, watch out for the coyotes and stuff like that. And the last two things is you will see gators and snakes. Now, unlike popular belief, in Florida, you're really not going to see gators all that much. It's really going to be when you're going and looking for them more in like the nature reserves and the protected areas. Now, typically we will see the gators in our lakes the most after a heavy rain. So this is typically after the canals fill with water. And then for whatever reason, the gators, you know, they get out of the canal and then they come into your lake. Now, typically it's not that big of a deal because you can just call the animal wildlife and they will come and take care of the gator. And typically when it comes to snakes, the most that I typically see are going to be garden snakes and rat snakes, which are these like black snakes. They are harmless. They will freak you out the first time you see them for sure. And I will say in terms of snakes, as a young kid, when I was walking around my lake, I used to fish all the time and, you know, just go and collect shells and different things like that. And I did step on 2 water snakes. They were harmless. You know, I'm just sharing that to say, don't be walking around your lake barefoot. These snakes, they like to hide under people's boats, like in their backyard. So if you have like a little John boat on the ground, sometimes they'll hide under there, and obviously in different like brush and stuff like that. But that's really some of the things that you have to think about when you're moving to Boynton Beach, is that you're still going to be in close proximity with the wildlife. So for number 7, what we have is actually something about the beach. And you might be wondering, I thought Florida had the most beautiful beaches in the world. Well, we do, but you would be surprised to find that some people, they hate the sand. And what I mean is the sand here literally will get into anything, especially on the carpet of your car, or sometimes even tracking that into the house. Especially if you're a common beach goer, it's just to be expected that you're going to find a lot of sand in your car and in your house. The other two things that are kind of overlooked is going to be the seaweed problem that we have, and also red tide. So seasonally, we have something that is called sargassum seaweed. And what this is, it's like this big clump of seaweed that grows. It's like algae out in the Atlantic Ocean. And it does serve to be like a little bit of a shelter for baby crabs, baby shrimp, and little bait fish. This is actually what the fishermen, when they go offshore, are looking for, because what they do is they troll their baits on the weed lines. So it's really good when you're fishing, because then you can catch mahi, wahoo, kingfish, stuff like that. But when it becomes an issue is when it starts washing up on the shore. So you might think that the beaches here are going to be like pristine, but often, more times than not, especially in the summer months, you're going to have a lot of seaweed collecting on the beach. And sometimes this can really smell, to be honest. And also the reason it's a problem is because it'll just collect where all of the waves are breaking and pushing the seaweed onto the beach. So that means that you're going to have to kind of wade through that seaweed in order to get to the water. So the second nuisance of the beaches is going to be the red tide. Now, what red tide is it actually occurs worldwide and mostly occurs in the Gulf of Mexico, but it can occur on the east coast of Florida and also in North Carolina. And typically the season for this is in late summer to early fall. And I've had one experience of red tide, and this again was when I used to work at the O over on the ocean. And just some of the symptoms of it is that it causes coughing and a lot of sneezing, and it can cause your eyes to water. And this is before COVID was even a thing. So this is, before wearing masks. But typically when this does hit, wearing a mask can help, because then it alleviates your symptoms of sneezing. So I just remember that one time when it did hit, it was only there for about a week. Typically it only lasts about, it says that it can last for a couple days, a week, or up to months. Fortunately for us, when it hit, it was only here for just about a week or so. So I feel bad for the guests of the hotel that were staying there that week, having to wear a mask, when they're trying to enjoy the fresh air of Florida. But the other thing about the red tide is that it can actually kill fish. It's known to kill mammals and birds. It can really affect their nervous system. Now, we do know that you're allowed to swim in these waters, although it can cause skin irritation. And something else to look out for is if you have asthma, it's recommended that you stay away from the beach when the red tide occurs. So the number 8 reason to avoid Boynton Beach is going to be the fact that although Boynton Beach is the 3rd largest city in Palm Beach County, it still is not a city life area. This is more of an area for young families and I would say retirees. Now, I'm saying this as a young person, who enjoys going out, meeting new people, being extroverted and stuff like that. The areas you're going to find the most activity in terms of those demographics is going to be more in Delray Beach, especially on Atlantic Avenue, or in West Palm Beach, especially around Clematis. Now, there is the added benefit that in Boynton Beach, it's going to be more affordable than these other cities, so that's why it draws in so many people. But as a warning, typically Boynton Beach just has that more laid-back lifestyle. This is where you can get away from the hustle and you can kind of get away with just wearing your flip-flops and your bathing suit around town and just enjoying the beach. All right, so for number 9, the reasons to avoid Boynton Beach is going to be the fact that you're absolutely going to need a car here. So we are definitely lacking in transportation. Now, obviously, you have the options to walk, take your bike, go on the bus, but mainly the way people are getting around here is Uber and Lyft, and definitely by using a car. Now, in terms of the walk score of Boynton Beach, according to walkscore.com, Boynton Beach has an average walk score of a 34 out of 100. So, yes, we are pretty well densed and everything is close to each other, but at the end of the day, having a car is the best mode of transportation. Now, in terms of an area where you can have a higher walk score, so you can be close to shops, restaurants, and different amenities like that, is going to be Renaissance Commons, located on the intersection of Congress and Gateway, in between Congress and Boynton Beach. So that is one of the more areas where I guess a lot of the young professionals will go, just because everything just happens to be right there. But, transportation does happen to be one of the cons of Boynton Beach. All right, so here we are at number 10, and this is the one I told you to stay tuned for. So just continue to keep it real throughout this entire video. The reason that you might want to avoid Florida is the fact that Florida is a very red state. Now, full transparency, this is not a con by any means for me, but I do want to say that, typically with Florida, you're going to find that it's very conservative and most of the state here is trying to maintain traditional values. You can really see that with some of the governor's policies, and Florida really was the #1 state that people actually moved to in 2022. So we had all these different cultures and ethnicities moving here, and while Florida is very welcoming of all different types of people, at the end of the day, most Floridians are a little concerned about people who are moving here, and they want to make sure that those who might be leaving very strong blue states, if you would put it that way, they want to make sure that they kind of leave those policies there when they're moving to this state and continue to hold up the values that make Florida, Florida, if you will. We see that a lot in the nation with different people making posts or memes and stuff about make America Florida again, stuff like that. So I just want to say and make it clear that this is a red state, especially when Trump was president here. We saw a lot of people putting Trump flags on their cars, Trump flags on their yachts, on their boats. And there was even Trump parades that were going around, especially in the intercoastal. So I just want to say that when you live in a certain state, you are going to be subject to the policies of that state. So just make sure that the values here, you align with those things. And if not, that might be a reason not to move to Boynton Beach. All right, so those are the 10 reasons that might deter you from making a move to Boynton Beach. But if you're still thinking about making that move and you're trying to find the perfect spot, that's exactly what we're here for. So we just need to find out what your budget is and what your lifestyle is, and then we can really put you right down to the simple street that might be the perfect option for you and your family. But the only way that we can help you find that perfect spot is you got to reach out to us. You got to give us a call, you got to shoot us a text or send us an email. And whether you're moving in 10 days or 100 days, we'd be happy to have your back and help you to make a smooth move to South Florida. Until next time, guys, we'll see you on the next video.